These are this afternoon's top stories. Tourism Minister says St. Kitts continues to do well in cruise tourism. No real VAT relief yet for consumers in Guyana. And world leaders push for progress during Philippines APEC Summit. Good afternoon and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Thursday, 19th November 2015. I'm Carla Berridge. In national news, the country's tourism minister, Honorable Lindsey Grant, spoke with pride from National Assembly chambers on Tuesday when he gave an update on the status of cruise tourism here in St. Kitts. He said the country had welcomed several ships for the first time this year.
On Sunday the 8th, we welcomed to our shores the Norwegian Getaway for the first visit here in St. Kitts. That was Sunday the 8th. Yesterday, Monday, we welcomed yet another first, the Norwegian Spirit, to our shores, Mr. Speaker. And today, we are going to welcome again another first in the Allure Anthem of the Seas. In addition to the Anthem of the Seas being in our shores today, we have two other ships in our shores, bringing some 10,000 plus visitors to the shores of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Speaking of next year's projections, Minister Grant reminded that St. Kitts will soon welcome its 1 millionth cruise passenger.
The Anthem of the Seas, I must say, is the third largest ship in the world. That's what we're bringing here. In June of next year, we are going to bring you the largest ship in the world for 5 cars. And on July the 22nd of next year, we are going to welcome Carnival Fascination, which will bring you the millionth passenger in 1 year, never before in the history of this country, on the Team Unity and the government that we have the opportunity to be a part of.
Tourism Minister Honorable Lindsey Grant. The Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force has partnered with Monroe College's faculty to host a workshop on current issues within the criminal justice system. That workshop is currently underway at the St. Kitts Marriott Resort's Grand Ballroom. J.D. Keynes has more.
We're here at the St. Kitts Marriott Resort, where Monroe College and the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force have partnered to host a workshop looking at issues affecting the criminal justice system in St. Kitts and Nevis. We have been able to secure an interview with lead facilitator representing Monroe College. Let's take in that interview.
Well, this is a conference with a series of workshops with the intention of looking at some of the critical issues vis-a-vis criminal justice in St. Kitts and Nevis. And so what we have done is to bring together a number of specialists on the faculty of Monroe College in the field of criminal justice, yes, and with stakeholders in this society looking at criminal justice from a multi-sector perspective, and seeing as an outgrowth that we can in fact bring about a much sharper understanding of what is taking place on this lovely island.
We were also able to speak with Assistant Commissioner of Police responsible for crime, Ian Quealy.
Okay, thank you very much, JD, for inviting me to speak with you. And as I said earlier, this is what I foresee as the beginning of a very lengthy partnership in years to come between Police Force of St. Kitts and Nevis and Monroe. Generally, the workshop came about as a result of a conversation I had with Ms. Kimara Isaac out of Monroe College. Being a native of St. Kitts Nevis, Kimara wanted to do something back, or give something back rather, to our country. And having looked at the direction in which the country is now heading in terms of crime and violence, she engaged the Commissioner of Police, who put her on to me, and we started the process.
Now, this workshop runs for the entire day, but if I can just look briefly at the booklet, I can tell you some of the topics that would be covered. Session 1 deals with investigations, violent crimes, and gangs and cooperation. Session 2 looks at the judicial system and innovative approaches to issues in the community. For Session 3, that's this afternoon, they'll look at effective leadership, management in law enforcement, the impact on the organization and the larger community. And the final session takes a look at victim cooperation and the intimidation factors and witness protection program. Reporting for ZIZ News from the St. Kitts Marriott Resort, I am JD Keynes.
The Hinsmith Miss Caribbean Talented Teen Pageant Organizing Committee has announced the confirmed contestants for this year's event, noting that representatives from Anguilla, Barbados, Dominica, Grenada, Jamaica, Nevis, St. Martin, USVI, and host country St. Kitts will compete in the December 29th event. According to chairperson of the Hinsmith Miss Caribbean Teen Pageant, Akila Barron Nisbet, preparations are going well. On to news on the regional scene. Capital News is reporting that Guyana citizens are yet to benefit from zero-rated items that are exempt from the value-added tax. Here's that story.
There is little government could do to ensure that consumers benefit from price reductions as a result of zero-rated items. Today, Finance Minister Winston Jordan said there was a lot of clamor for the items to be zero-rated, but it is not the poorer classes of citizens who are benefiting. Minister Jordan spoke with members of the media after the launching of the 47th Annual Monetary Studies Conference.
In very many cases, this benefit is appropriated by whoever is the producer or the seller. And this has happened in almost all cases. So I don't know why in sort of lobbying government to do something so that prices could reduce, we don't find other avenues. Like maybe cash transfers and so on. One of the reasons we've been able to make significant transfers is because of when the VAT came in at 16%. It was able to accumulate quite a bit of revenue.
The minister also said the poorer classes are likely to benefit through cash transfers rather than removing the value-added tax from items.
Because very often the benefits that you give don't necessarily feed through to the bottom. I mean, I took all the VAT off of every flour, and I don't recall seeing bread prices falling. People always tell you all kinds of things. Well, we have other increases in other areas, and so on. We drop the price. We drop the price of fuels, gasoline, and so on. Did you see it reflected in any price? People always have an excuse as to why these prices can be passed through. So. But there ain't much that we can do. Prices are formed in the markets, and sometimes it's consumers and their advocacy that will help some of those prices to come down.
Meanwhile, Chartered Accountant Christopher Ram said the issue is one that speaks to enforcement, as he calls out the Private Sector Commission and consumer advocates.
But some of this would have to be addressed by the administration, by the Guyana Revenue Authority. I think the consumer body in this country, is disgraceful. That's the kind of thing they should be doing. And I would also say that whilst places like the Private Sector Commission and the Georgian Chamber of Commerce and Industry call for reductions and all these matters, they must also ask for the business community to behave in a more ethical manner and a legal manner.
Finance Minister Winston Jordan, during his budget presentation, announced a number of items to be zero-rated, which included locally produced chow mein, fresh carrots, Milo, Ovaltine, and Nestum. But to date, those prices have not reduced on the market. This is despite some manufacturers announcing a reduction soon after the passage of the budget. Reporting for Capital News, I am for Water.
The Negotiations Unit within St. Lucia's Ministry of the Public Service is hosting a series of workshops under the theme, The Role of Public Officers in the Implementation of the Collective Agreements. The workshops follow the conclusion of negotiations and the signing of 8 collective agreements for 2013 to 2016 with 7 public sector unions and staff associations under the umbrella of the Trade Union Federation. Don Nicholas reports.
The purpose of the workshop was to review the provisions under the collective agreements between government and the unions. In this way, the unions will be on par with each other as to what obtains under the agreements.
This morning we are starting off our series of implementation workshop. It is since the collective agreements were signed with 7 of the public sector unions under the umbrella of the Trade Union Federation. What we are seeking to do is to bring all the parties who are involved in the implementation process of the collective agreement. And to this end, this morning we are meeting with the Viewfort General and Dock Workers Union and the ministry relating to that particular union, which is the Ministry of Social Transformation.
The Viewfort General Dock Workers Union is one of the parties involved in the process. This union represents 5 councils in the south. The union is working with the Ministry of the Public Service to minimize problems in adhering to collective agreements.
What is happening today is a collaboration between the Ministry of the Public Service and the union, and basically is towards implementation and enforcement of the collective agreements at the various levels of councils. And the reason being is that there are times that we run into problems in terms of people adhering to collective agreements. So what we're trying to do is that to ensure that everybody, basically based on the administration of the councils, also with the chairpersons or the mayors of the constituency councils, you understand? Because unknown to people, they have 2 heads. You have the head, which is the ministry, and you also have the head, which is the constituency development councils. Then you have the administrative arm, which is the clerk of the councils. And then you need that everybody is supposed to be on par.
The organizers of the workshop are hoping that this will make for better relations between employers and the unions. For the DBS News World, I am Don Nicholas.
Internationally, on day 1 of the annual Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC, in the Philippines, U.S. President Barack Obama spoke first and focused on the need to deal with climate change. 21 other Pacific Rim economies are in attendance. Al Jazeera Morgan Ortigas reports from Manila.
Just as they had promised, APEC leaders kept politics out of the agenda and only talked trade at Wednesday's meeting. U.S. President Barack Obama spoke first and focused on the need to deal with climate change. Next up was Chinese President Xi Jinping, who emphasized the need for regional cooperation. Xi used nautical metaphors in his speech, but made no mention of China's controversial construction of islands in disputed areas of the South China Sea.
The Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation will play roles of a policy platform and incubator. We will seek closer cooperation in the internet economy, blue economy, green economy, and urbanization, and improve the ability of independent innovation.
On the sidelines of the summit, and what are being seen as messages to China, Vietnam and the Philippines signed a strategic agreement aimed at enhancing maritime and defense cooperation. And President Obama visited the flagship of the Philippine Navy. He announced that the U.S. will be sending 2 more Navy ships to the Philippines and reiterated U.S. commitment to freedom of navigation. Obama discussed the regional maritime disputes with Philippine President Benigno Aquino. A U.S. ally, the Philippines is one of 6 claimants to portions of the South China Sea.
Together we support a rule-based order in the region, which is critical to regional security and the global economy. That's why the United States supports the Philippines' decisions to use arbitration under the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea to peacefully and lawfully address differences.
Also on the sidelines of APEC, Philippine police have been busy.
Anti-US, anti-China, anti-defense enhancement, anti-trade deals, anti-all sorts of things. There have been many demonstrations here almost daily since last week. Activists making the most of being under the world spotlight because of APEC and making sure their concerns are heard.
Many Filipinos are angry at their own government for what they see as an unnecessary expense to host the international conference.
We hosted APEC years ago too, and what's happened since then? Nothing. They said things would improve, but they haven't.
This year's APEC meeting will close on Thursday. Despite criticism, economic delegates say there will be more to the summit's outcome than just empty talk. Marga Ortigas, Al Jazeera, Manila.
The Paris massacres put the spotlight on migrants, including in the U.S., where President Barack Obama plans to accept 10,000. Paul Chapman reports.
The Paris massacres led several Western nations to question their willingness to accept migrants, not least in the U.S. state of New Jersey. The state governors among those demanding a halt to plans to take 10,000 Syrian refugees next year after Syria-based Islamic State said it was behind the Paris bloodshed. Many residents disagree.
Somebody needs to take care of them, otherwise they're they have no future, nowhere. And America is known for, having, giving them an American dream, giving them a chance to rebuild their life again.
We're a nation of immigrants. My grandparents came here from Albania two generations ago. They were refugees too. They were let in. We've done well here in this country. We can't close our doors.
Jim Sues is Executive Director of the Council on American Islamic Relations New Jersey chapter.
The Syrian refugees are victims themselves, and they should not have to pay for the sins of ISIS as victims of ISIS.
House Speaker Paul Ryan says there's a Republican plan for legislation to pause the Syrian refugee program.
It calls for a new standard of verification for refugees from Syria and Iraq. It would mean a pause in the program until we can be certain beyond any doubt that those coming here are not a threat.
President Barack Obama is using his Twitter page to defend the refugee plan. He says slamming the door would be a betrayal of the nation's deepest values.
Taking a look at the weather. Temperatures today will peak at 80 degrees Fahrenheit with a gentle breeze blowing from the north at 9 miles per hour. Today and tonight, skies will be partly cloudy to cloudy with mainly mid to high level clouds and brief periods of light rain as well as a quick passing shower. Seas are moderate to locally rough with swells up to 6 feet. Small craft operators and sea bathers are therefore asked to exercise caution. Sunset today will be at 5:35 p.m. and sunrise tomorrow will be at 6:18 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you for joining us. I'm Carla Barrage.